Welcome back to my 270,000 plus amazing subscribers. In today's deep work lesson, we are going to learn English in my favorite way ever, with a story. And today's story, you definitely do not want to miss. We are going to be talking about Tom Cruise. Yeah, that Tom Cruise, the famous Hollywood actor. And we're also going to be talking about his dark past and his involvement with Scientology. If you don't know what that is, make sure you watch this video till the end because the story is fascinating. The plan is to begin with a quick read of the story. This will just take a couple of minutes. I will read the story to you. You can sit back, relax, and listen. In the second part of the video, we will take a look at a vocabulary breakdown, talking more about some of the challenging language we saw in the story. Then in part 3, we will return to the story for a deep dive. This is the real meat and potatoes of the lesson, the most important part where we go back to the text and we go through it line by line, making sure everything is crystal clear. Finally, at the end of today's video, we will have speaking practice. Yeah, a chance to reflect on the story and practice our English speaking skills. If you are ready to dive into this insane story, click like on this video, say hello in the comments, maybe even become a channel member. These are your ways of supporting me as your YouTube English teacher. All right, let's get going. So, just as a reminder, we will begin with a quick read. Sit back, relax, and listen. Just try to understand the story as best you can. If it feels difficult, too challenging, don't worry, because we will spend the rest of the video making everything clear. Okay, let's get started. The strange story of Tom Cruise, Scientology, and Hollywood. Tom Cruise is one of the most famous actors on the planet. But his smile? Some people say it doesn't add up. Christian Bale once said he based his creepy American Psycho character on Cruise because Cruise smiled big, but his eyes looked checked out. Even in real life, Cruise has come off as strange. In one interview, he laughed while telling a story about cutting off his co-pilot's oxygen during a flight. The co-pilot passed out. Cruise thought it was hilarious. Everyone else, not so much. Cruise had a tough childhood. His dad was abusive. He was diagnosed with dyslexia and struggled in school. The family moved constantly, never really settling down. At one point, he wanted to be a priest, but got kicked out of seminary school for stealing alcohol. Then he set out to become an actor. He learned everything he could, not just acting, but also how lighting, editing, and cameras worked. He was all in. By 1986, Top Gun made him a superstar. But off camera, Cruise was still struggling to keep up, especially with reading scripts. That's when someone handed him a strange book from a church called Scientology. Scientology was created by L. Ron Hubbard, a science fiction writer. He believed every human has a spirit called a thetan, which is blocked by painful memories from past lives. To remove these blocks, you must go through spiritual training. The training isn't free. In fact, it can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. To move up through the church's spiritual levels, people must pay for auditing sessions, a process where you are asked personal questions while holding metal tubes hooked up to a machine called an E-meter. The goal is to dig up emotional pain and clear it. Scientology also has a secret group called the Sea Org. Members sign up for a $1 billion-year contract. live on church property, and work long hours for almost no money. Many join as teens. Some are born into it. Tom Cruise became their golden boy. They set up gyms for him, sent over workers to clean his homes, and planned big events around him. In return, he praised Scientology everywhere, even saying it helped him cure his dyslexia. He wasn't just a follower. He became their superstar. Cruise married Nicole Kidman. At first, she went along with the church, but later she backed away. The church reportedly turned on her. After their divorce, Cruise held on to full custody of their kids. Kidman was cut out completely. His next wife, Katie Holmes, also played along until their daughter Suri was born. Katie became scared. She didn't want her daughter growing up in the Sea Org. So she secretly got in touch with lawyers, used burner phones, and mapped out an escape. When she finally filed for divorce, Cruise was caught off guard. Katie got out. She won full custody. Tom hasn't seen Suri in over a decade. Meanwhile, Cruise's public image began to fall apart. He gave intense interviews. He shouted about how psychiatry was evil. He called antidepressants dangerous. In a leaked video, he made vague promises about cleaning up the planet while grinning wildly. Critics, ex-members, and shows like South Park started calling Scientology a scam. Former insiders spoke out, saying they were pressured, punished, and emotionally abused. The church hit back, often trying to ruin their reputations. And Cruise? He's still making hit movies. He jumps out of planes. He flies jets. He pulls off impossible stunts, but some say he's not in control anymore. Maybe he can't get out. Okay, guys, awesome work. That was a quick look at today's story, and that probably felt a bit overwhelming, right? There is a lot of information there, and some of the language is a little bit advanced, a little bit technical, talking about Scientology and their strange methods that they use. But before we dive back into the story, I want to take a look at some of the phrasal verbs we saw in it, because these are so useful and will make you sound natural and fluent in English if you can use them correctly. Let's start with add up. To add up is to make sense or seem believable. Here's another great expression here. It checks out. Yeah, that checks out. That seems correct. That seems fine. No problems there. Some antonyms or opposite words might be confuse, seem wrong, not make sense. And here are two example sentences. Number one, his story didn't add up. So I started asking more questions. Okay, it didn't add up, right? So it didn't check out, we could also say. It didn't make sense. It didn't seem logical. We can say his story didn't add up. There was something off about his story. Example 2, something about her reaction just doesn't add up. Yeah, the way she reacted, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't seem logical, it doesn't check out. If you guys don't click like on this video, that really doesn't add up. For me, that doesn't seem logical. It doesn't make sense, it doesn't check out. Yeah, you should click like. That would be the sensical thing to do, the correct thing to do. Another fantastic phrasal verb we saw in the story, come off. If something comes off a certain way, then it appears or seems a certain way. He comes off as really confident, but he's actually shy, right? He comes off as really confident. He seems confident. He appears confident. He gives the impression that he is confident. Here's another great expression here. If you give a certain impression, then you seem a certain way, you appear a certain way, you come off a certain way. I didn't mean to come off as rude. It was just a joke, so it wasn't their intention. They didn't mean to come off that way. As for me personally, I think I come off as kind of a shy person because I don't talk a whole lot when I'm out with a group of people. What about you? What kind of person do you think you come off as? A confident person? Shy person? Happy person? Let me know down in the comments. If you set out to do something, you begin a journey, a project, or a goal. You begin, you start, you launch. Some antonyms might be to give up, to quit, to stay put. She set out to become an actor when she was just a teen. So she began this journey, right? She started a journey to go and become an actor. If you set out to do something, then you have a goal in mind. You have a mission. For example, this year, I set out to get over 1 million subscribers on this YouTube channel. I don't know if I will accomplish that goal, that mission, but I began that journey. That's what I set out to do. What's something you set out to do this year? Quit smoking? Lose weight? Get better sleep? Let me know in the comments. Number 4 of 5 here, we have dig up, meaning to discover or bring out something hidden, like a secret or a memory, to uncover something, in other words, to reveal something, to expose something. Antonyms might be to hide something, cover up something, ignore something. Reporters tried to dig up secrets about his past. They tried to uncover secrets, expose secrets, reveal secrets. About what? About his past. Example 2, the therapy sessions helped her dig up painful memories. So she's reaching into her mind, into her memories, and she's searching for those painful ones, and she's digging them up because maybe she wants to examine them. She wants a better look at them, right? One more phrasal verb to talk about here before we get back to the story, get out, meaning to escape or leave a difficult or dangerous situation. To escape, to leave, to break free. Opposite words, antonyms might be to stay, remain, or be trapped. She wanted to get out of the toxic environment. This reminds me a little bit of my living situation when I was in college. Back then, I also lived in a toxic environment. It was a very toxic living situation. Toxic meaning very unhealthy or unproductive or maybe even dangerous, right? I remember my roommates were terrible and we never got along. We were yelling at each other. It was a really bad, toxic situation. And from day one of living with them, I wanted to get out. I wanted to escape, to leave, to break free, but I was stuck in a lease. That's my connection to this word. Example 2, he finally found a way to get out of the contract. Have you guys ever been in a really toxic situation or environment that you wanted to get out of? Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was a living situation like what I had. Maybe it was a job. Yeah, people have toxic work environments all the time where they are overworked or underappreciated, right? Not appreciated enough by their boss, by their colleagues, their coworkers, right? Have you guys ever been in a situation like that? Let me know down in the comments whether or not you managed to get out, escape. All right, fantastic. You guys are doing amazing. We took a quick look at the story. We talked about some of the really useful phrasal verbs we saw in the story. Let's come back and go line by line and really dissect this story. Make sure we understand everything crystal clear 100%. Now, any new words you guys learn along the way, you can post those down in the comments, and over time, we can like each other's comments, giving each other reminders to go back and review. The strange story of Tom Cruise, Scientology, and Hollywood. Tom Cruise is one of the most famous actors on the planet. I'm sure you guys have seen a picture of him at some point, even if the name is not familiar. I'm sure the picture would be familiar. But his smile, some people say it doesn't add up. Here's a really great phrasal verb, right? It doesn't add up. His smile, it doesn't seem right. There's something off, something creepy about it. Here's another very famous actor here, Christian Bale. He had this movie, American Psycho, right? And I thought this was really interesting when I was researching the story. Apparently, he based his creepy character from that movie on the real-life Tom Cruise. In other words, the inspiration for that character was Tom Cruise, because Christian Bale had watched all of these weird, bizarre, strange, peculiar Tom Cruise interviews where he would say weird things or go crazy on TV, and Christian Bale thought, man, this just doesn't add up. There's something weird about this Tom Cruise character, right? Christian Bale once said he based his creepy American Psycho character on Cruise because Cruise smiled big, had a big smile, but his eyes looked checked out. Checked out, meaning he's not really there. He's there, but he's not really there. Maybe mentally, he's thinking about something else. Mentally, he is elsewhere, we could also say. Even in real life, Cruise has come off as strange. Yeah, he's come across as strange. In other words, that's the impression he has given people. The impression is he's a weird guy. In one interview, he laughed while telling this really disturbing story. He thinks it's funny. Everybody else is like, dude, that's messed up. That's not right. That was wrong what you did. He laughed while telling a story about cutting off his co-pilot's oxygen during flight.
He slept the whole way. Wow.
So they're up there flying a plane, the two of them. Tom Cruise switches off his co-pilot's oxygen. His co-pilot kind of passes out. Passes out up in the air. You know, Tom Cruise thought it was hilarious. He was laughing then, and he was laughing on TV as well, telling the story. Everyone else, not so much. He was the only person who thought that was even remotely funny. Even remotely funny. Yeah, even a little bit funny. Cruise had a tough childhood, a difficult upbringing, we could also say. His dad was abusive, so he would get abused by his dad. We don't know exactly what that means, but maybe his dad would hurt him physically or emotionally, say terrible things to him. I'm not sure exactly, but his dad was no good and treated him very poorly. We can say that he was abusive. He was diagnosed with dyslexia and struggled in school. Okay, so that's what the doctors diagnosed him with. They gave him some tests and they made a diagnosis. That means they decided what was going on with him medically. So they diagnosed him with dyslexia, which is a learning and reading disorder. So he really struggled in school. He struggled in school. School was very difficult for him because of the diagnosis, dyslexia. The family moved constantly, never really settling down. So that would be tough as a kid, right? He was never in one place for long, always moving over here, moving over there. So if you never really settle down, then you don't have a chance to adjust to your surroundings, get used to your surroundings, right? You don't have a chance to make friends at school or get a feel for the neighborhood, the area you live in. Yeah, that's a real shame if you never have a chance to settle down and get familiar with an area. At one point, he wanted to be a priest. Yeah, he was interested in joining a religion, becoming a priest. But he got kicked out of seminary school, a school for becoming a priest, for stealing alcohol. I guess he was kind of a mischievous kid. Yeah, he was a bit mischievous, meaning he would get into trouble sometimes. Were you guys a mischievous kid when you were little? You can let me know in the comments. Then he set out to become an actor. He set out to do this. He set out to become an actor. That was the journey he embarked on. That was his mission, right? He learned everything he could, not just acting, but also how lighting, editing, and cameras worked. So he wanted to know everything about making movies, essentially. He was all in with film, all in with cinema. It's a really great expression. If you are all in, it's kind of like a game of poker, right? It's kind of like gambling. If you are really convinced by something, then you are putting it all on the line. You are totally invested in that thing. For example, me personally, I've decided to go all in with YouTube. I bought a very expensive microphone. I bought a new computer. I bought new cameras. I bought new lights. I changed our home office so that I can make videos more easily. I bought a printer. I really went all in and spent thousands of dollars so that I could make my videos higher quality for you guys. Have you ever gone all in with something or all in on something? You can let me know in the comments. By 1986, Top Gun made him a superstar. Yeah, this movie was massive. This movie was a true blockbuster hit. What's that? It's an expression we use for movies. A blockbuster hit just means everybody saw it. It was a super popular movie. It made millions and millions of dollars. But off camera, Cruise was still struggling to keep up. Yeah, if you are struggling to keep up, then whatever material you are dealing with or handling is very difficult for you. And for Tom Cruise, we're talking about reading scripts. Remember, he has dyslexia, which is a reading disability. And for his movie roles, he's required to read a lot, right? Well, that's very difficult for him. And so he is struggling to keep up. He's feeling like he's in over his head, like it's too much for him to handle. That's when someone handed him a strange book from a church called Scientology. This is the moment when Scientology entered his life. In other words, this was the big watershed moment. This was the big turning point for him. Now, I love this part of the story because we get a little bit of background on Scientology. It was created by this guy, L. Ron Hubbard, a science fiction writer. And I'm pretty sure that L. Ron Hubbard holds the world record for most books published. He wrote something like hundreds or maybe thousands of books in his lifetime. He was a science fiction writer, and he would just crank them out. What does that mean? He would write like mad, write like crazy, and was constantly putting out new books. Now, were these high quality books? Were these really good books? I don't think so, but he sure published a lot of them. He was a real interesting character, this L. Ron Hubbard guy. He was the founder of Scientology, and he had a very quirky belief system. That means he believed in some really strange things that most ordinary people do not subscribe to. They do not subscribe to it. In other words, they don't agree with it. They don't believe in it. What did he believe? He believed Every human has a spirit called a thetan, which is blocked by painful memories from past lives. Yeah, so this guy has some ideas that are really out there. Out there means crazy. If you have ideas that are really out there, that means you have some crazy ideas. He also believed to remove these blocks, you must go through spiritual training. Okay, you have to train your spirit. Now, of course, in my opinion, right? This is just my opinion, but this is all such a big scam. He would tell people, oh, your spirit is blocked. You need this training. And then, of course, the training isn't free. In fact, it can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, in my personal opinion, this is all a big money-making scheme. It's all a big scam. To move up through the church's spiritual levels, there's different levels that you basically have to pay for, right? That's how they get your money. They say, you really need to reach this level up here. Your spirit is stuck down here. So that'll be $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. Yeah, people had to pay for auditing sessions. This was a process where you are asked personal questions while holding metal tubes hooked up to a machine called an e-meter. Is this really a scientifically proven method? It seems pretty out there to me. Basically, it was like therapy, like a therapy session, talking to a therapist or a psychologist, right? But the people who were undergoing this process, they would hold these metal tubes, and the machine they were hooked up to would take some kind of measurement of their spiritual levels, right? Was it really doing anything? Was any science really taking place? That's for you to decide. The goal is to dig up emotional pain and clear it. Okay, so Scientology also has a secret group called the Sea Org. It's connected to Scientology. It's related to the Church of Scientology, but it's kind of like the secret organization, the secret group. If you are a member of the Sea Org, you sign up for a 1 billion year contract. A lot of us, if we are signing the lease for a new apartment, we might sign a 1 year lease, a 2 year lease. That's a rather short contract, right? But it's a normal length contract. If you're signing a work contract, maybe you sign for 1 year or 2 years. Well, if you wanted to be a member of the Sea Org, you had to sign a 1 billion year contract. Yes, billion with a B. You also have to live on church property. You also have to work long hours for almost no money. Sounds a lot like manipulation to me. Sounds a lot like the Sea Org was trying to, control its members, manipulate its members, and use them for slave labor as well. These people are working difficult jobs, making almost no money doing it, right? I had no idea about this organization before I was researching today's video. I found it to be really interesting, yes, but also disturbing. It really bothered me. Many join as teens or teenagers. Some are born into it. Well, Tom Cruise became their golden boy. Yeah, their idol, okay? Their favorite. They set up gyms for him. They got all this stuff ready for him. They sent over workers to clean his homes, with an S, multiple properties, and planned big events around him. In return, he praised Scientology everywhere. He sang its praises. He had nothing but positive things to say about it, nothing but good things to say. Everywhere he went, he would say how good, how great Scientology is. He even said it helped him cure his dyslexia. Many people found that to be irresponsible, right? To suggest, to insinuate that Scientology can cure legitimate medical, disabilities, learning disabilities. Many people were not on board with that. They were not happy when he made that claim. He wasn't just a follower of Scientology. Just like his blockbuster movies, he became their superstar. Cruz had several high-profile relationships. A high-profile relationship means that it's in view of the public. Everyone is paying attention. The media is talking about it. The paparazzi are following them around, taking pictures. Cruz married Nicole Kidman. At first, she went along with the church. She said, okay, this is a little weird, I guess, but it's fine. I'll go along with it. But later, she backed away. She decided she had had enough. The church reportedly, according to reports, turned on her. They turned against her. After their divorce, Cruz held on to full custody of their kids, meaning after they got divorced, the kids went to Tom, and Nicole was cut out completely. So she did not have access to her kids following this divorce, right? He got full custody of his kids. It's a legal term, meaning he has the right to keep the kids. She does not have that right. Well, his next wife, Katie Holmes, also played along until their daughter Suri was born. Okay, when their daughter Suri was born, Katie became scared. She didn't want her daughter growing up in Sea Org, this weird, manipulative organization. So here's what she did. She secretly got in touch with lawyers. She secretly reached out to them, contacted them, got a hold of them, right? She used burner phones, cheap little Walmart phones that you can set up easily. And then when you're done using it, break it, throw it away. Untraceable back to you, cannot be traced back to you. So they're safe to use if you are trying to remain anonymous, right? You don't want people to find out what you're doing. You can use a burner phone. And she mapped out an escape. She was planning her getaway, planning her escape. Well, when she finally filed for divorce, Cruz was caught off guard. Caught off guard. That's a great expression here. He was caught off guard. He was like, huh? Really? Where did that come from? He hadn't been expecting it at all because she had been doing this secretly or in secret. Thankfully, Katie got out. Thanks to how carefully she went about doing all this. She did all of this very carefully and in a very smart way, right? Legally speaking. So she was able to get out and she won full custody. So she got their daughter Suri. Tom, to this day, hasn't seen his daughter Suri in over a decade, 10 plus years. It's very sad he hasn't been able to see his daughter. But, if you look at the situation from Katie Holmes' standpoint, from his ex-wife's standpoint, from Suri's mom's standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. You don't want your kid growing up in a cult, right? You don't want your kid growing up in this shady organization that manipulates and tries to control people. That's just not a good way to raise a kid. It's very scary, right? And the church really does have a lot of power. She was right to be afraid of the church. Meanwhile, Cruz's public image began to fall apart. So things are starting to turn for Tom Cruise. His image, his public image, the way people see him, the impression that people have of him is starting to change and change for the worse. It's starting to fall apart. Yeah, he started to give these really intense interviews. If you're giving off intense energy, then you're giving off very strong energy, not chill at all. He was like shouting, right, about how psychiatry was evil. He called antidepressants dangerous. If somebody is feeling very low, feeling very depressed, they take antidepressants, right? So he started yelling about psychiatry and how antidepressants are dangerous. Then, in a leaked video, this video was leaked, meaning that it wasn't originally supposed to be made public, right? People were not supposed to see this video. The public was not supposed to find out about it, but somebody put it out there. Somebody leaked it. In the video, he made vague promises. Yeah, kind of blurry, vague, not super clear promises about cleaning up the planet while grinning wildly. So in this weird leaked video, it sounds like he has some strange plans for the world, right? That's kind of scary. Well, after all of this bad press, after all of these weird things happened publicly, critics of his, ex-members of the Church of Scientology, they're ex-members, so they used to be members, but not anymore, right? And shows like South Park started calling Scientology a scam. So more and more publicly, he is hurting the image of the Church of Scientology, not just his own image, but the church's image as well. Former insiders, ex-members, they spoke out. They came forward, right, saying they were pressured, punished, and emotionally abused. So a lot of people are coming out of the woodwork. It's a good expression, coming out of the woodwork. They're coming forward and going public about their stories and what happened to them and all of the abuse, the emotional abuse that they suffered when they were a member of the church. You know, they were saying that they were pressured. A lot of pressure was put on them to not speak out. They were threatened and punished if they did speak out. All of these terrible accusations against the church, right? Well, the church hit back. The church hit back, often trying to ruin their reputations. So the church would target these people who were speaking out and slander them, say bad things about them, try to ruin their reputations, and make them seem untrustworthy, right? Like they couldn't be trusted, like they were unreliable, not a good source of information. Well, as for Tom Cruise, he's still making hit movies. If you've ever seen Mission Impossible, that's him. You know, he's 60 plus years old now, still doing his own stunts, still a big movie star. He jumps out of planes, he flies jets, he pulls off impossible stunts. A stunt is like a trick, right? Something cool. But some say he's not in control anymore. Maybe he can't get out. Maybe, just maybe, he is trapped in the Church of Scientology. If you made it all the way through that story, take your hand, give yourself a pat on the back because you deserve it, my friend, and you are doing an amazing job. Before you go away, though, don't go yet, because we still have our speaking practice challenge. Very quickly, before we get into that, I just want to say a quick thank you to my channel members. These are the people who pay $5 a month to support me and my work here on YouTube. I don't know if you guys know this, but YouTube barely pays me any money. So I really, really rely on my channel members to keep me going. But they don't just do it for nothing. They get PDFs for all of my videos so that they can review the lessons and really remember what we've talked about. They get exclusive bonus videos just for them, not for the public. They also get access to my English book club. We read books together every month and discuss them. If that sounds cool to you, if that sounds interesting, or maybe if you just want to support me, I would appreciate it so much. Become a member today by clicking the join button here on YouTube or going to my Patreon. And if you are already a member, God bless you. Thank you so much for your support of me. It means the world. Now, here we are at the final part of today's video, the speaking practice challenge. What I'd like to do is try to talk for 1 full minute about your thoughts on Tom Cruise or Scientology, anything we've talked about in today's lesson. For an added bonus challenge, try to use at least one of these expressions when you talk. Add up, come off, set out, dig up, get out. If you can use one or more of those, that would be amazing. Now, I'm going to go first and give you a demonstration of what I'd like you to try and do. And if you are not in a position where you are convenient to speak right now, in other words, if you are not able to talk out loud, feel free to post your opinions down in the comment section as well. Man, what a crazy, crazy story. The story of Tom Cruise and Scientology. Well, ever since I started learning about Scientology and Tom Cruise's involvement in the organization, something just seemed really off about it to me. It didn't add up. Yeah, and the more I looked into it, the more Tom Cruise came off as this weirdo, this guy who had, these big plans for the world. And it's like, who are you to decide the fate of the world or try to clean up the world? The whole thing came off as very bizarre and unsettling to me. I don't know if he can get out of the church or if he even wants to get out of the church, but hopefully if he wants to, one day he'll find a way. That was my response to today's topic. Now it's your turn. Take your minute and speak out loud or go down to the comment section and let me know your thoughts. All right, go ahead. Huge thanks to everybody, especially my channel members. If you are in the middle of a study session, keep going. I'm going to put another one of my videos right there up on the screen. Go click on it and I'll meet you there. Come on, let's go.